Hello, everyone. Welcome to another video exclusive for November. I don't know what video exclusive special number this is. I didn't look it up ahead. I'll need to look it up. I don't know. I don't think I've done any video exclusives because I've had laptop problems, but knock on empty head, right? Knock on wood. Hopefully, prayerfully, they're fixed now. Although earlier today, Zoom collapsed on me. So I was like, oh boy, hopefully Zoom will cooperate now for the November 2025 video exclusive. At any rate, shut up. Let's get going, right? Housing bubble. I'm trying still to get a guest to come on the show to discuss the inevitable in my mind. I'm looking for a real estate or a finance insider to come on and the eventual next collapse of the housing bubble. Similar to 2008, but not the same. We don't have the exact same conditions and situations, but there are a lot of similar conditions and situations. There will be another housing bubble burst, and there will be a bunch of people who are underwater in what their house was worth versus what it's really worth. And right, you have a $200,000 supposedly home and a 200,000 or let's say $180,000 mortgage still left on the home, and the bubble bursts and it resets to an actual more realistic value of 125,000. Well, let's just say 120K, just to make the math easier, right? Now worth 120, what it's been worth really all along, because it was overvalued at 200K maybe when you bought it, and you still owe 180K. That's a difference of 60K. A lot of those people underwater in value versus mortgage will walk away like they did in 2008, causing the whole additional stuff, the Lehman collapse, bankruptcy, whatever. Oops, that's the sunlight glaring in through the door, reflecting on my green screen there. I said, is there a problem with my green screen? No, it's the sun coming in. Anyway, at any rate, housing bubble, housing costs, housing crisis, whatever you want to call this, explained. Okay, Trump now announces he's working to help assure the creation of a 50-year mortgage. Well, not really helpful, but hey, it's what can be done without necessary legislation through Congress. And supposedly, some Democrats are caving and will reopen the government, but the vote hasn't happened yet. So the Democrats resisting and blocking us from helping American citizens continues, or will continue even if the government reopens. They will filibuster bills that help Americans. They only want to help non-citizens. The whole shutdown argument, 1.5 trillion more to send hundreds of billions overseas to help foreigners, not money for Americans. Another, the largest chunk of the 1.5 trillion they were demanding, despite losing the election, for more handouts to cover health care for non-citizens. So we see the difference in who they're fighting for versus who we're fighting for. But housing costs, housing issues for American citizens is the problem here, and what the left keeps blocking will continue to keep blocking, even when the government opens back up. Item one, well, 50-year mortgage, right? I would never, no one I know would ever get a 50-year mortgage. A 15 is great. It's the most ideal, obviously, but most people have to get into a 20, 25, more traditionally 30-year mortgage, right? You need more time to pay in order to have a lower bill. But of course, the interest you're spending over the course you're accruing and racking up and ultimately paying for over the course of 30 years versus 15 years is significant. And a 50-year mortgage, oh my God, the amount of interest you will rack up, accrue, and have to pay over that time, absolutely absurd. But I'm for choice. I'm for options. I'm for realism. What can realistically be done? And hey, this is something Trump can do without a need of an act from Congress to work with banks and lenders to create options, choice. If you choose, if you want to, if you're willing to sign on the bottom line for a 50-year mortgage, because that's the only way it gets you into a house, then you should have that choice, that option. The left, of course, oh, no, it won't solve the problem. It's not meant to. It's a band-aid. It's an option. You should have that option. The left, of course, while clamoring about choice to the left is only used as a dodge for murdering babies. They oppose school choice. They oppose choice in and of everything, and you having the option. Obamacare locking you into government run. We want more private sector options and choices. More choice, more competition that helps bring costs of things down. Left, less choice. Government control of everything. Government run of everything. Runs up the cost of everything they control. So, no, 50-year mortgage isn't a solution for most people. It will indebt them more in the long run. It can be more hazardous to them, but it's an option. Just like the flexible interest rates, the supposed predatory lending of before the 2008 housing bubble. No one held a gun to the heads of these people and made them sign the loan. They chose to sign the loan, hoping the rate wouldn't adjust up very much, or if it adjusted up 5 years later, their wages will have gone up enough so they could cover the new nut, as right, or note, as they say now, right? The loan cost, the loan amount to have to pay to put principal and interest payments down, right? No one forced a gun to their head for this predatory loan. No one made them sign it. No one. They chose to do it. And then they weren't prepared when the rate flexed up, as we all knew it would. Even they knew it would. And when they were underwater, they decided, let's stick everybody. Let's stick all the other bank customers. Let's stick all the other credit union customers. Let's stick all the taxpayers for the government bailout that would be coming to the financial institutions. Let's just stick them all and walk away and force the entity that held the loan to foreclose on the house because they were underwater, thinking, well, we'll just go rent somewhere. Some of that's coming again. Some of that is coming again. But so, no, 50-year mortgage, not a solution, Band-Aid, and an option. Because we're about options and choice, while we then work for actual policy prescriptions that will address the real problem and fix the real problem. And I've lined out a few, like deporting more illegals. That's right. You've got no business coming here. You don't have a right to come here. It is a privilege. We get to decide who we allow in. If you broke in, and as Jesus says in the Bible, those who do not use the door are a thief. They're a thief. They're a fraud, so spare me. You're a fake Christian. Oh, I'm all for there should be no borders. No one is illegal, blah, blah, blah. Jesus says you're wrong. Read your actual Bible. So, deport more illegals. There is less of a demand then for houses both rented or purchased. That opens up houses, that frees up market, that reduces demand, that lowers prices. One arrow in the quiver. That alone doesn't solve it either. So, next, checking my list here. Oh, yes, supply, short issue, blah, blah, blah. For citizens, rent or buy. That eases the issue, will help bring down rents, bring down housing costs overall. Yeah, because your landlord is buying properties at big numbers. They have to charge big numbers in rent to pay off the property they bought and to cover the taxes the left keep wanting to raise on the property. They've got to cover those costs and the maintenance costs and blah, 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 blah. All right. So, renter or buyer, deporting more illegals will be one solution of the overall puzzle picture. 2, interest rates. Gotta keep pressuring. We should have already had more interest rate cuts. We must pressure. We must get Jerome Powell. Once he's up, I think he's up in May. Go on, bye, out of here. Get CTFO, right? Trying to still be G or PG-13 here. GTFO, Powell. Bye-bye. Don't let the door hit you on the hindsight on your way out. Replace him. Get another 0.5%, percent cut. And interest rates, people who have higher interest rate mortgage can then refi, get their payments down, give them more disposable income for other things. Another part of the solution, right? Item 2, just part of the whole overall picture. Number 3, reduce regulations. How about, I wrote it down, reduced housing cost zones? Parts, certain areas of the country, like we did enterprise zones, right? Federal and state taxes are waived if the company builds in the enterprise zone to employ more people. We give them a tax. Let's do the same thing with housing builder contractors. Reduce housing cost zones. Put one, Detroit, I talk all the time. Downtown is great. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. If you're upper middle class or a millionaire or a billionaire, to be able to afford the expensive apartments, condos, or whatever options in downtown Detroit. It's expensive. Great place if you can afford it. Most of Detroit, however, yes, they've ripped down a bunch of the vacant properties. That's good, but vacant empty land doesn't solve any problem either. It doesn't help any. We need to set up reduced housing cost zones in old Detroit neighborhoods that have been cleared out. A contractor could come in and build 10, 20, 30, 50 houses all there together in a new minor subdivision in Detroit city limits at reduced rates. Reduce some taxes? Yes, of course, absolutely, positively. But also, just like with cars, tinyurl.com/JLD articles. right? tinyurl.com/JLD articles. My Before It's News page, Joseph M. Leonard, JLenardDetroit, there. You'll have to scroll down quite a bit, but cars, automotive regulations must be reformed now. GM and Ford, maybe not Chrysler, because Chrysler's not really an American automotive company anymore. But how about GM and Ford be given exemptions and allowance, a carve out in the laws from the regulations? Please go to beforeitsnews.com. Again, tinyurl.com/JLD articles. Have to scroll down a ways, but it's there. All right. GM, you get to make 1 million cars. Ford, you get to make 1 million cars a year, exempt from the following: airbags, a major cost, federal dictatorial. The left calls us Nazis. They're the ones created all these federal government dictates, edicts, regulations, enforcements, impositions upon you and me. If I want a car and I'm willing to be fully disclosed, that's the other, I'm against government regulations that impose things, except for full disclosure requirements. Regulations that demand you disclose what's in that vehicle, oh, I'm all for. But yes, okay, here's one of the 1 million vehicles exempted from airbag. There's an airbag in the steering wheel, but all those side impact ones, gone. Passenger one, gone. Use your seat belts. If I want, I should have choice. I should have options. If I want to buy a car with less airbags, as long as it's disclosed and I'm willing to sign on the bottom line, I accept the personal responsibility. I know what I'm buying. It's what I want to buy because it's less expensive, right? Less airbags, crank windows, manual door locks. How about some cars potentially with no air conditioning, cost less? How about some more stick shift vehicles, less expensive options, choice? You could go to the dealership. I want one of those 1 million exemption cars, so I could pay 10,000 less than the average cost of all these cars you're making, with all the federal leftist dictates in them that drove up the cost. I want that option. I want that choice for me and for you. No one is holding a gun to anyone's head, forcing them to buy those vehicles, but it should be an option to be able to buy those vehicles for less. The same, bringing it back to housing, with houses. All right, I'm not a builder, so I'm just kind of spitballing concepts, vague concepts. Those of you in the industry can hash it out and know what I'm talking about and provide the details. All right, a frame, frames through the whole house, right? Regulation requires a 2x4 every 6 inches. Again, I'm just spitball. I don't know that's the regulation. I don't know that's the code. I don't know that's the requirement. What I'm saying is suspend the usual regulation and the code and allow a builder to say, okay, we're going to make walls where the 2x4 infrastructure are 9 inches apart rather than 6. Still very solid, still very sturdy, still absolutely great. Reduces the cost of the overall building, therefore the overall cost of the house. Other things, right? less electrical outlets. Well, our modern society, we got electrical everything, but all right, less electrical outlets. Like, how about something simple and stupid like this? No painting. You get the drywall interior, and even how about the exterior if it's standard? It'd be great if there were siding or fake brick or whatever, but how about a standard wooden exterior and you paint it yourself? Same with the inside. We save the cost on the painting. You buy the primer, put it on. You buy the paint, put it on. Now, some might think, oh, wait a minute, right? If it costs $1,000 to have the interior all done and painted in a neutral color, which you're likely to repaint and change the colors anyway from the stale plain blah white or whatever beige that's in there. You're going to paint anyway. So why pay for painting that you're just going to cover up? Eliminate that. Let the homeowner, now let's just, again, spitball. Let's just say that adds $1,000 to the cost of, yeah, overall cost of $150,000 home. Might seem minimal, but you're not thinking through the whole math. So we don't paint it. The house may only cost $1,000 less because they're not just paying the painters and paying for the supplies. There's a markup. So you're saving that. So let's say it would have cost $1,200, but you get it plain. You're going to spend $1,000 anyway. Well, let's say you're going to spend the whole $1,200. I'm not saving anything. No, you are. You are. Bear with me, right? But if it would have been $1,200 with markup and you're going to spend $1,000 to do it yourself, you choose whether you buy cheap or expensive brushes. You choose if you buy cheap or expensive primer. You choose cheap or expensive paint, right? I used to work for Kmart, right? The Martha Stewart Kmart store brand or the pick your brand, right? Fancy painting brand that would cost twice as much. You decide how much you're going to pay for those sorts of things. But for sake of argument, let's argue $1,000 on the cost of the house deducted. You're going to spend $1,000 over the next few months doing it yourself. That's it, right? You're saving on the labor. But $1,000, but that $1,000 that you would have 15, 30, or 50-year mortgage on, that 1,000 becomes 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 over the course of the loan as it compounds interest. You're saving all that interest. So let's say you're going to spend $1,000 and you don't have the cash, you put it on a credit card. All right, you're going to pay interest, but for a lot shorter period of time, right? If you charge the $1,000 on a credit card and pay $100 a month on your credit card, pay it off in 11, 12, 13 months, your $1,000 cost you $1,100, $1,200, $1,300. That's still better paid off in shorter period of time than 15, 30, 50 years. That 1,000 is actually 2, 3, 5,000 over time. You're saving money. Houses are cheaper. These are simple fixes, simple solutions, and no one is forcing you to buy one of those houses and paint it yourself. You can choose to do that if it's better option and more affordable for you. See, this is simple stuff. The left can't use common sense. They don't know simple. They don't know anything but more government related regulations, subsidy. No subsidies. No subsidies either. But how about this? Full disclosure, right? Again, as long as you are fully disclosed, that's what's done. That 9 inches rather than 6 inches between the 2x4s in your walls. As long as you've been disclosed that, you have the option to buy or not. No one holding a gun to your head. Regulate subsidies. What about the water, the electric, and the gas suppliers? All right. Well, let's work a deal with them. No, no, no. Not subsidizing them, not stealing from other taxpayers to give to the water company to charge you less. No, work with them that, oh, government fees waived, government taxes waived, their costs less. They can sell you drops of water cheaper, kilowatt hours of electric cheaper, cubic inches, cubic feet of gas cheaper, costs passed, savings passed on to you. You get a break. If your water bill, electric bill, and gas bill are all 10% less, guess what? That doesn't help you on the cost of the house, but it helps your budget. You've now got more dollars. You're spending less on water, electric, and gas. You can then get a higher mortgage payment amount and be able to afford to cover it. I'm, I'm just so fed up with moronic thinking. Government creates the problems and government thinks it can solve the problems by throwing subsidy monies at it. That doesn't help. As Reagan said, government doesn't solve problems, it subsidizes them. And we all pay because it's our money they're stealing to subsidize other people, their stuff. No, let's cut the costs. Let's make more choice. Let's open up more competition. That brings costs down. This is simple stuff to understand. If you think, rather than, oh, my snowflake feelings, I'm so offended, I'm upset. The government has to do everything. The government must do more, not less. The government must give more handouts, not my feelings, my communism. Steal from Steve to give to Eve and pretend you've done something. No, you haven't done anything. Jesus said to take care of the poor. We are to want to take care of our brothers and sisters, widows and orphans, through charity, our own free will, voluntarily, our own blood and treasure, helping. Having government, Jesus never said, let the Romans create laws to steal, to give to another, and you get to pretend you've done something. No, that's not how it works. Jesus never said it. How about you actually read your Bible? The difference between biblical community, free will, voluntary, charity versus worldly communism, force, theft, redistribution, right? Everything at the barrel of a gun. You've got no choice in the matter. Big difference. So I'm checking my notes here. So yes, we need reduced housing cost zones, and that will not eliminate. No such thing as perfect here. No absolute fix. But all these things I've outlined will help alleviate the problem, help reduce the strain on the system, help American citizens, not foreign invaders. I saw somebody on Fox say how anti-tax, right? I'm anti-tax. I oppose tariffs most time. But again, what do you want? Trump to declare war on China over economic trade issues? No. Tariff is the tool we've got. I give him grace. I make an exception to my no taxes rule, no tariffs. This nation existed wholly on and solely on import and export tariffs before the 16th Amendment came along. We can do that again. Tariff isn't a dirty word, within reason, right? And that's the tool we have. Do you want them declaring war on Britain? Declare war on Canada, declare war on France and Germany. Let's go to war with everybody due to economic issues. Since World War II, we allowed others to take advantage of us and tariff us. We didn't tariff them as they needed to rebuild following the destruction of World War II. It's 80 years later. Enough. No, you no longer get to take advantage of us. You are on equal footing as us now. You've long rebuilt. It's time we stop being taken advantage of. It's time we create equal playing field. And tariffs, if you tariff us, we tariff you back, is fair trade. It's equal trade. It's right, fair. I would love free trade, but we need fair trade. Every nation should protect their steel industries. It's a national security issue. Us, England, Spain, France, Germany, everyone should have import tariffs on that, and aluminum and tin and maybe even rubber, although rubber items aren't an issue right now, but things that are a national security issue, because we must be able to build our own items for defense of our own nation. Same with our allies. So no problem with that. But general consumer items, no. Enough of you taking advantage of us. It made sense. We wanted you to build back after World War II. We're 80 years removed. That doesn't apply anymore. Right? It goes back to Reagan. There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. That was supposed to be a temporary situation. But the left and CNOs and rhinos, the deep state crowd, once something's in place, oh no, you can never change it. You can never undo it. They're busy making money off the exchanges. They're busy money laundering off the conditions. Times change, policies have to at times change. And now is time for reduce housing cost zones. Simple, simple solution, something that could be put in place tomorrow. If not tomorrow, how about next year, right? It will take a year, 2 years, 3 years. You just don't throw up houses overnight. It will take time, the land to be designated, the land to be prepared, the houses to be built, people arranged, real estate agencies to then be able to sell the houses to people who want them. No one holding a gun to their head. Your choice to choose to buy at that rate for the 9-inch apart 2x4s rather than the 6-inch apart 2x4s. Your choice to paint it yourself or not. Your choice. The left is never about choices. So time is overdue. It will take time for houses to get into the system, absolutely. But we must act now to put in place these policies to reduce the regulations and the taxes and create the zones so we can start the process to help alleviate, not eliminate, alleviate the pressure in the system before it's too late, because the bubble's going to burst again. It could be days, it could be weeks, months, years. It could be staved off by a miracle, a decade or 2 decades, but it's coming. And this will help alleviate that a little also. Hopefully, if we do enough of it, we can stave off the collapse, the bubble bursting again, and let housing prices come down reasonable reduction rates rather than collapsing overnight from 200,000 to now you've got $120,000 value. That's when the bubble is bursted and people walk away. There's a bunch of foreclosures and there's chaos. We can work to avoid a lot of that. Anyway, I don't know how long I've rambled on here. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Love you all. I tried to make notes before hitting record. I know there's something I'm forgetting, but again, right now, not subsidizing the water, electric, and gas suppliers, but working something so that their costs are less, so your costs could be less, which frees up more money for you to be able to buy these ridiculously overpriced houses. Help the housing problem. And at the same time, help the homeless problem, because the more renters that then buy, the more space is freed up to have rents come down, and some that are homeless could then afford the rents and not be homeless. As well as, of course, other zones, right? Relocate homeless people zones where instead of building houses, how about prefabs homes? They used to be all over the place. How about trailer parks? I know people, not everyone that lives in trailer parks or trailer park trash. I know people who lived in a trailer park for years, right? I had the episode with, I forget her name, but Trailer Park Angel, just recently during book weeks. She was on Trailer Park Angel. Not everyone who lives in a trailer park is trash. How about trailer park zones? Inexpensive housing. Not the most ideal, but hey, you got a kitchen, you got a bathroom, you got a bedroom, you got a living room. It may be small, but you got your own place. Inexpensive, we can move people into that they could afford. Less homeless people. These are simple solutions. The government leftists don't know simple. They can't cash in on simple. They want to extort money from you, launder most of it into their pockets, and then pennies get to other people. That doesn't solve anything. This doesn't necessarily solve everything, but it helps a whole heck of a lot while the left keeps blocking it. They want to help invaders. They don't want to help U.S. citizens. All right, yeah, again, rambled again. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Love you all. Sorry, I'm sure I'm forgetting things. Hey, chime in the notes. If you thought of a regulation or a corner that could be cut in a house without destroying overall structural integrity and safety of I'm not saying, oh, let's sell houses without roofs on them. Oh, come on, right? You put your own roof on. We're not talking that kind of stupid, but we're talking little things. What could be cut? What, right? How about less 2-bathroom houses and more 1-bathroom houses? Again, may not be ideal, may not be preferred, but it's a lot less expensive to be able to afford. How about slightly smaller living rooms? Slightly, right? We've gone the old days, families of 12 used to live in a 4 or 5 bedroom, 2 or 3 bath, McMansion, we might call them today, in Wyandotte, downtown Wyandotte. We got a ton of those old homes, historic labels, but right, a family of 12 lived in that house that's not very big. The bedrooms were all small because they were just meant to sleep in them. They don't need to be huge master baths, bedrooms. You want bedrooms as big as people's living, is my living room. Right? This house I'm in was built in 1942. My grandfather got an exemption in World War II because he worked for the Ford Rouge bomber plant. Got exemption on the rationing to be able to build this house, 42. A lot of people's bedrooms are bigger than the living room I'm in right now. How about we reduce the size, make them more affordable? How about we learn to be reasonable and say, I don't need a 1,500 square foot living room with cathedral vault ceilings and humongous, almost church-like shaped, fancy shaped windows. No, simple square windows with simple double pane glass, workable windows with screens. Let's learn to be a little less entitled and expectant on so much overly fancy stuff that's nice, hey, to show off to the neighbors, keeping up with the Joneses. Look, I'm in a McMahon. No. How about smaller, reasonable, practical homes being built so people can actually afford to live in them? I promise this time, really, I'm going. Bye bye.